Ingrid Ariola Hayner, COM 101, Professor Steve Harrow. How many of you have siblings, family members, or friends that have minors under the age of 20? Raise your hands. All right. I am sure you're all well aware that our youth, our juveniles, are having sexual intercourse at a very young age, without parents' knowledge and without their consent. But did you know that if these juveniles get caught or a parent prosecutes, they will be convicted and they will become sexual offenders and have to register on the SORNA, the registry list? I would like to persuade my audience today to have the Nevada legislature revamp and restructure the Adam Walsh Law, or Assembly Bill 579. You see, I have a cousin who is a Romeo and Juliet sex offender, and he has to register now because of the changes in the law for 25 years instead of 15. I will discuss the unconstitutionality of the Adam Walsh Law, or AB 579, and how it is detrimental to our youth. According to a memo produced by Kimberly Buchanan, who is Senior Deputy Attorney General, AB 579 was passed by the U.S. Congress in the year 2006. This law was to strengthen and make stricter the current registration, sex offender registration laws. It was also made to protect the public against violent sex offenders. But included in that is the Romeo and Juliet sex offenders. In the same memo, the Adam Walsh Law changes the time frame that these sex offenders have to register. For instance, if you are a Tier 1, means that you are a low violent or zero violent sex offender. Originally you registered for 15 years, now you have to register for 25. The new law, which is also detailed in the same memo, was found to not only increase the time frame that you have to register, but also the sex offender is subject to be reclassified. So currently, the laws as they were, you have to go through a process, and the state determines how violent you are and what the chances are of recidivism. The Adam Walsh Law, you can be a Tier 1 and not have to be subject to notification. It's going to bump you up to a Tier 2, which now you have to register every 6 months instead of 1 year. And your neighbors will be notified. You will be plastered all over the website, including these Romeo and Juliet offenders. In the year 2008, the ACLU sued, and they won based on the fact that AB 579 is unconstitutional. However, the Ninth Circuit Court decided to reverse it, stating that it was constitutional. The Nevada Supreme Court concurred and decided to keep it on the books. Now that I've discussed a little bit of the background on AB 579, I will reveal the harshness and unconstitutionality of the law. In a current lawsuit that was filed in this year, 2016, with the Nevada Supreme Court, Does 1 through 24 are suing based on that it's unconstitutional. Because you see, there's no provisions for juveniles. So these Romeo and Juliet offenders are having consensual sex, and they're being prosecuted and have to register as sex offenders. The reclassification of going from the different tiers violates the Equal Protection Clause of the U.S. Constitution, and it subjects to additional punishment. This law takes these sex offenders back from 1956, where there was no registration. They're punishing them all over again and having them register. That also violates due process part of the Constitution. In a research conducted by Messler, Anderson, Calkins, the law was not properly thought out, and neither was the registration process. Any error that the states make becomes irreversible, and there's no way to fight it. According to Bella Walker, no distinction is made of the seriousness or the dangerousness of the perpetrator. Currently, over 1/4 of our registered offenders are juvenile. Having disclosed the unconstitutionality of AB 579, I will lastly discuss some of the positives of changing the law. According to Wouters, registrations result in harm, especially to our juveniles. Vigilantes will begin to retaliate. How would you feel as a parent? You're looking on the registration and you see that there's 4 or 5 registered sex offenders in your immediate area. You become angry, you become fearful, you want to retaliate. In an article by Kelly Bonner Kidd, collateral consequences are a result of this, the mass hysteria. Cities have created safe zones. These safe zones do not allow any sexual offenders to live in them. So if you're currently owning your house and you live in that area and your child is a registered sex offender, you have to move, or the child has to move, separating that child from the family. By changing the Nevada legislature, we can have these Romeo and Juliet offenders not be a part of the registration system. Again, it's consensual sex. But the letter of the law states that you have to be 16 in order to consent. There are many teenagers out there, ages 13, that are having sex. In conclusion, I believe that it is in the best interests of society to exclude the Romeo and Juliet nonviolent offenders. In review, I have presented some background information, some information on the unconstitutionality of the law, how the state can save some money by removing them from the registration. Currently, Metro does not have the capability, if the law actually goes into effect, to monitor all these sex offenders. The stigma and the labeling causes our minors, our juveniles, some mental issues, depression, homelessness, which they do not need to suffer. By retracting them from the registration, families will also save money on counseling as well as court costs. Please consider. Thank you. Not even close to what I have written in my outline. Okay.
The cards?
Oh, my cards. Sorry.
Ready. Next.